11 things inside your house right now are making your home smell old, and most people have no idea what to do about it. Meanwhile, Japanese families replaced every single one of the items decades ago. That stale old house smell can be hard to shift because it's not sitting on the usual surfaces you clean, and it comes instead from specific things that soak the smell up and hold on to it, which is why bleach and an open window never fix it for more than a day. You may be thinking that none of this applies to your house, but you would be the last person to find out if it did. When you live somewhere, you go nose blind to it, so that old house smell can be sitting in every room without you having any idea it's there. But your guests are not nose blind to it, and it is the first thing that hits them when you open the front door. The first item is most likely hanging in the room you are sitting in right now, and the last thing on this list is something you bought on purpose to solve this exact problem, and it has been making the smell worse ever since the day you brought it home. So let us get into it. The first thing making your house smell old is your curtains, and they are almost certainly the only fabric in your home that has never once been cleaned. In a traditional Japanese room, the window is covered by shoji, which is paper stretched over a wooden frame. And when it gets old, you strip it off and put fresh paper on, because it was always meant to be renewed. Even the Japanese homes that do use curtains sell them labeled as washable curtains, because a curtain over there is laundry. In an American home, a curtain is furniture, so it gets bought once, hung once, and taken down when the house is sold. Everything that moves through that room passes through that fabric, and some of it stays there. So the cooking and the damp and the pets and the dust have been going into those fibers for years and coming back out slowly ever since. The window makes it worse because condensation runs down the glass and soaks into the bottom of the fabric, which means the lowest 8 inches of a lined curtain can stay damp for months at a time. So pause the video and go to your nearest curtain. Take the very bottom hem, gather it into a fold, press it against your face and breathe in, not the middle of the curtain, the hem. Whatever you just smelled has been coming off that fabric into your room every day since you hung it up. You have vacuumed the floor underneath those curtains hundreds of times, and you have never taken the curtains down. So take them down this weekend, wash or steam them according to the label, and get them fully dry before they go back up. Then wipe the condensation off the window each morning so the hem is not sitting in water all winter. Curtains catch whatever happens to be floating around the room, and the second thing on this list is getting it out of you directly for 8 hours a night at point blank range. The second thing is your pillow, along with every cushion on your sofa. Japanese bedding gets put outside in direct sunlight on a schedule, and if you walk through a Japanese apartment block on a dry afternoon, you will see futons hanging over the balcony rails on every floor. Beaters for knocking the dust out of them are sold in every home store. Electric futon dryers are an ordinary appliance, and the traditional pillow is filled with buckwheat husk that can be poured out and refilled. The American pillow is a sealed bag of foam that goes inside a case and never comes out again for 10 years. And since your head produces more oil than almost any other part of your body, that oil has been going into the foam every night and oxidizing there because it does not evaporate and it does not rinse out. You have washed that pillowcase 200 times. The thing underneath it has never been washed, never dried out, and never replaced. And it sits against your face for a third of your life. So replace your pillows every year or two rather than every decade. Put them outside for a few hours on the next dry day along with every sofa cushion you can lift, and buy a washable protector to go under the case so that something between your head and the foam can actually go in the machine. That covers what you sleep on, and the third thing covers what you walk on. Except this one has a second layer underneath that has never been touched since the day it went down. The third thing is your carpet, though the part causing the problem is the foam underlay sitting beneath it, which nobody has ever cleaned or even looked at. The Japanese floor is tatami, made from a woven rush grass called agusa, and the thing worth knowing about it is that the surface is treated as a consumable, so it gets renewed on a cycle the way you would renew anything else in the house. Fitted carpet with foam glued underneath it is rare in Japanese homes, and the reason that matters is that liquid does not stop at the carpet. It goes straight through the backing into the foam below, so every spill, every accident from a pet, and every knocked over glass of water from 15 years ago is still down there. Steam cleaning drives even more water into it, which is exactly why a professionally cleaned carpet can smell worse a week later than it did before anybody touched it. You have cleaned the top of that carpet for years, and the thing producing the smell is underneath it, where no vacuum and no machine you can rent has ever reached. So lift your rugs and air both sides in the sun, buy washable ones from now on, and if there is a spot on your fitted carpet that you already know about, accept that the foam underneath it has to come out. That last one gets expensive, which is exactly why Japanese families handle these things early and end up saving thousands of dollars over the years without ever feeling like they went without. So if keeping your house fresh and saving money both matter to you, I have put every one of these Japanese habits into a book over at thejapanesemethod.com, so scan the QR code on your screen or click the link in the description and start cutting down on your bills right away. Now the next 3 things are all in your bathroom and your laundry room, and every one of them is something you have been putting away while it was still damp. The 4th thing is your bath mat, which is a piece of fabric designed to get soaked, lying on the floor of the wettest room in the house, with the least airflow of anywhere you'd put fabric. Japan got rid of the cloth mat altogether and replaced it with a slab of diatomaceous earth called a kisoto mat, which pulls the water off your feet in about 2 seconds, draws it through its own structure, and is dry again before the next person uses it. Because it never stays wet, there is nothing living in it, and it is a supermarket item over there rather than a specialty one. A cloth mat gives bacteria warmth, damp, skin, and no airflow underneath it for a week at a time, so the smell in your bathroom is almost never coming from the toilet, and it recharges itself every morning. You bleach that toilet every week, and the thing producing the smell in that room is the mat you have been standing on with clean feet. So switch to a diatomaceous earth mat, or if you would rather stay with fabric, hang it over the side of the bath after every use and wash it twice a week. Because the 5th thing on this list has a named bacterium behind it that a Japanese laboratory identified. The 5th thing is your towels, and specifically the ones you folded up while they were still a little bit damp. Japanese bathrooms very often have a dryer built into the ceiling, because leaving anything to dry slowly is treated over there as a fault in the building itself. American towels are thick and heavy and plush, and they get folded while still faintly cool and stacked in a closed linen closet. In 2011, Kao Corporation and Professor Yoshiaki Kawamura at Aichi University found out exactly what is happening in there. The smell comes from a bacterium called Moraxella osloensis, which sits on a brand new towel doing nothing at all until that towel spends a few hours damp. Then it starts feeding on the skin oil and protein that ordinary washing always leaves behind, and it produces the compound that gives you that wet dishcloth smell. Once that compound is in the fibers, washing will not take it back out, which is why a towel that has gone that way starts smelling within seconds of getting wet every single time for the rest of its life. That towel is not dirty because you washed it. It got folded and put away 20 minutes too early, and you have been doing that to every towel in the house for years. So dry your towels, spread right out with air moving over them instead of doubled over a rail, wash them hot with an oxygen bleach in the load, and never put one away while it still feels even slightly cool to the touch. You could do all of that perfectly and still be pulling towels out that smell, because the machine you wash them in is the 6th thing on this list. The 6th thing is the appliance, whose whole purpose is to make things clean, which makes it the last thing in the house anybody thinks to clean. Walk into a Japanese supermarket and there is a permanent shelf of washing drum cleaner, sold on the understanding that you run one through the machine every month, and leaving the door open between washes is ordinary practice there. In an American supermarket, there is one lonely product filed near the descaler, and most people have never bought it. Meanwhile, a front-loading machine has a rubber seal around the door with a fold in it that holds standing water permanently, and behind the drum there is an outer tub you cannot see, collecting undissolved detergent, fabric softener, and body oil. Softener is the real problem, because it leaves a waxy deposit that builds up instead of rinsing away, and what you end up with is an organic layer that is wet, warm, and sealed in the dark. Every clean towel, every clean shirt, and every clean sheet in your house has spent an hour turning around inside that. You have not been washing the smell out of your laundry, you have been spreading it. So pull that rubber seal back today and wipe inside the fold, run a hot empty cycle with an oxygen bleach once a month, and cut right back on the fabric softener or stop using it altogether. Leave the door and the detergent drawer open between washes and take the drawer out completely and wash it in the sink. That is the machine dealt with, And the seventh thing is the first breath of air anybody takes when they walk through your front door. The seventh thing is your entryway, and Japan solved this one with architecture rather than with a product. The Genkan is a recessed area at the entrance of a Japanese home, set lower than the floor of the house, and its entire purpose is that outdoor things stop there. Shoes come off, and that is construction rather than politeness, and they go into a ventilated cupboard with charcoal sitting in it, because charcoal absorbs the smell into itself instead of covering it with a scent. An American entryway is a stretch of carpet with shoes standing on it that were worn on sidewalks and in public restrooms, in a warm hall that usually has no window in it at all. Every person who has ever visited you took their first breath standing directly over your shoes in the one part of your home with no ventilation, while you were in the kitchen putting the kettle on. So make it a rule that shoes come off at the door, rotate your footwear so nothing gets worn 2 days running, and put charcoal in the shoe cupboard rather than anything scented, because the eighth thing has been coating the walls of the room where you spend most of your time. The eighth thing is a film of oil on every upright surface in your kitchen that you cannot see and have never washed. Japanese cooking puts a lot of oil into the air, and the response was to treat the extractor fan as real equipment with a real maintenance schedule, so the filters and blades come out and get degreased rather than wiped, using alkaline cleaners like baking soda and sesquicarbonate on walls and ceilings rather than only on the stovetop. Frying turns oil into a fine mist that rides the warm air around the room and settles as an extremely thin film on the cabinets, the ceiling, and the light fixture, and then it oxidizes, which is the same thing that happens to a bottle of cooking oil left open for a year. You will not see it as a stain, but you will feel it if you run a fingernail along the top edge of a wall cabinet. You have wiped that stovetop every night for 20 years, and the ceiling above it has never been washed once. So try the fingernail test, then wash the walls, the cabinet fronts, the ceiling above the stove, and the light fixture with warm water and an alkaline cleaner twice a year. Pull the extractor filters out and degrease them properly, and leave the extractor running for 10 minutes after you finish cooking. At least that one is on a surface you can reach, and the ninth thing is not on a surface at all. The ninth thing is the drain in the bathroom you only ever put your guests in. Underneath every drain in your house, there is a bend in the pipe holding a small amount of standing water, and that little bit of water is the only thing between your room and the sewer, sitting there as a plug against the gas coming back up. When a drain goes unused, that water slowly evaporates, and depending on how warm and dry the room is, it can be gone in a week, after which the pipe is simply open. So the drains it happens to are the ones nobody uses, which means the guest bathroom sink and the spare toilet down the hall. There is a real chance that the room you send visitors into has been connected straight to the sewer for months, and that it only smells that way when somebody is actually standing in it. Japan has a word for that water. They call it fuzui, meaning seal water, and because it has a name, it is something people check, so a Japanese householder with a bad-smelling sink looks there first. There is no everyday word for it in English at all, which is why nobody has ever thought to tell you to go and look. So once a week, run the faucet for 30 seconds down every drain in the house, including all the ones you never touch, and do the same the moment you get back from a vacation. Then clean the overflow hole on your bath, because that is a separate channel with its own buildup sitting inside it. That is the plumbing dealt with. And the 10th thing on this list is alive. So if you have one in the house, you stopped being able to smell it years ago. The 10th thing is your pet bed, which belongs to somebody who does not bathe and cannot tell you when it needs washing. Japan applies the same laundry logic to the animal. So the bedding goes in the wash on a schedule and then goes out in the sun, and charcoal goes in that corner of the room rather than a scented spray. A dog bed is a foam core inside a fabric cover, and everybody washes the cover while nobody washes the core, which is where the oil and moisture from the animal have been collecting for years. The animal also lies in the same spot every day, and the carpet underneath that spot is the layered problem from earlier, so you have 3 layers stacked up and only one of them ever gets cleaned. You love that animal, and you stopped being able to smell it years ago, and it is the fastest thing a visitor identifies about your house. So wash the cover every week, wash or replace the foam core inside it, put the whole bed outside in direct sunlight, and deep clean the floor underneath where it sits. The 11th thing that makes your house smell old is the thing you bought in order to stop your house smelling old. In Japan, there is a whole retail category of products made with no fragrance in them at all, running across cleaning and laundry and personal care, because removing a smell and adding a smell are understood there as opposite operations. Japan also has a word for the harm caused by overdoing fragrance, and it is discussed openly as a real problem in shared and professional spaces. The American air freshener aisle is 30 feet long, and by the Japanese definitions, every product on it belongs in the category that only adds a scent, so not one of them removes anything. A fragrance does not take the original molecule out of the room because that molecule is still there and still sitting in the fabric. What you actually smell is the two of them together, and that combination is what your visitor's brain records and remembers. A plug-in makes it worse still, because it releases continuously into an enclosed room, so within a few days you stop noticing it and go out to buy a stronger one. The heaviest and sweetest fragrances, meaning the vanilla and musk and powder and floral ones, sit in the same range as stale household air, so instead of canceling it, they reinforce it. And sweet fragrance sitting on top of stale air is precisely what people are describing when they say a house smells old. The thing you bought to hide the problem is combining with it, and the combination is the smell itself. Every time you have worried about it and gone out to buy something stronger, you have made more of the exact thing you were afraid of in more rooms. And nobody has told you. Not because nobody noticed, but because there is no way to say it in English that does not come out as an insult about your housekeeping, and by extension about you. Your daughter noticed. Your friend of 30 years noticed. Each of them ran the same private calculation and decided that telling you would hurt you more than not telling you, so they carried it for you instead. The plug-in sitting in your hallway is the evidence that you already suspected something was wrong and had nobody you could ask about it. So take out every plug-in, every scented gel, and every automatic spray in the house today, and go 2 weeks with no added fragrance at all so your own nose has a chance to reset. Replace all of it with charcoal or another unscented absorber, and with moving air. There is one more thing I am not going to number, because it sits one level above all 11 of those. When you live somewhere, your nose stops reporting the smell to you after a few minutes, and if you have lived there for years, it stops reporting it altogether. Your visitor walks in from outside with a nose that has been reset by the fresh air, so what has become invisible to you is the very first thing that reaches them. It does not stay in the house either. Your coat has been hanging in that hallway, your sweater came out of that machine and dried on that rail, so you take it with you into your daughter's kitchen and into the car and into work, and you are still the only person in the room who cannot smell it. So there is only one way you will ever check this for yourself. Then walk back in and take one single breath in the hallway before you do anything else. Then walk back in and take one breath in the hallway before you take your coat off. That one breath is the only chance you will ever get to smell your house the way your visitors smell it. Americans grew up believing an old house smells old, that it arrives with age the same way creaking floorboards do, and that covering it up is all anybody can do. It is fabric that has never been washed, foam that has never dried out, an underlay nobody has ever seen, a drain that emptied itself, a layer of old oil on a ceiling, and a plug in the hallway making all of it louder. None of that is age, and all 11 have a Japanese replacement that has been sitting on a shelf over there for decades. So start with the curtain hem and the bath mat tonight, and run some water down the drain in your guest bathroom before you go to bed. All right, thanks a lot for watching. Check out my previous video appearing on your screen right now, and I will see you in the next one.